Well, we were just talking about the environment, and we're likely to hear plenty more about it in the next couple of weeks because Extinction Rebellion, the movement campaigning to raise awareness of climate and ecological decline, are planning 2 weeks of direct action in London and other cities around the world. And joining us now are Savannah Lovelock and Sarah Lunnan, both Extinction Rebellion activists. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
So what should we be expecting then next week?
OK, so next week we're actually taking Rebellion to the government. And we're actually going to be in Westminster and we're going to be outside government departments asking where is their plan. Parliament declared a climate emergency on the 1st of May and now we need a plan to deal with it. So where's the plan?
You're talking that your focus is going to be around Westminster. A spokesperson told a press conference this week we're going to blockade and shut down every single road going into Westminster. Now, there's a major hospital, isn't there, on Westminster Bridge? Are you worried about how it could impact patients or families trying to visit, their loved ones?
Well, I think it's about this understanding of the wider perspective. We have people on the bridges who can have conversations with people who are trying to get there, and there's potential of, if people really, really need to get there, about letting them through, possibly, in that conversation. But there's this wider perspective of, what is coming and the risks we have to take and the emergency that is coming, and that we have to have our voices heard. And we're really, really sorry. We don't want to be doing it, but we're running out of time, and this is what we have to do right now.
Because you can't guarantee, can you, that there won't be disruption, that emergency vehicles, that ambulances might not be able to get to that hospital?
OK, so there absolutely is going to be disruption. There's disruption coming whether we take to the streets or not. You could just look at the rain that happened this morning. It's huge disruption across the roads.
But I'm talking about specifics.
Yeah, there will be disruption.
On this hospital.
In terms of blue lights, ambulances with blue lights can guarantee people will get out of the way for ambulances with blue lights. And also discussions with the police. They know what we're doing, and so alternative routes can be put in place. But if an ambulance with blue lights turns up at any roadblock, with Extinction Rebellion activists there, we will get out of their way. There is absolutely no doubt about that.
What about families as well? Because we have had cases, haven't we? I remember back in July, someone saying that he missed being at his father's bedside when he died in Bristol.
Yeah, and that's really, really unfortunate, and it's totally heartbreaking. And when you think about it, makes you feel absolutely dreadful. So there is no way that we want to be doing this. We've been forced into this position by the lack of action from governments for the last 30 years. And what is coming? Change is coming to us, whether we like it or not. The pain and anguish that that man suffered, being unable to say goodbye to his father, is the pain and anguish we are suffering right now as we look at the future of our children. Because it's very, very grave.
But we're looking. It's I know. I'm not trying to say that it's not deeply concerning the environment, but his very specific pain about not seeing his father, he might not really think that was comparable.
And I totally understand that. But what we are having to do is shift the conversation from us as individuals, as we live our individual lives, to looking at that mass death, mass famine and starvation, like the loss of future for all of our children. And our governments are not addressing it. So we have tried, we've marched, we've been members of the Green Party, we've passed motions in council, and there has been no action. And it's only when we've taken to the streets and caused this disruption that you ask us onto this programme. You ask us to come and speak, And so I do not want to be doing this. I do not want to be upsetting people's lives, but life on Earth is dying. Our children's future is disappearing in front of our faces, in front of our, our very eyes. So unless we disrupt, nothing happens.
And this disruption is caused by the people about them not taking action. So if you want to ask these type of questions, you need to ask them.
What would be a victory then? What would be something that you could say is a victory, you're going to call off a disruption, that's enough?
A victory would be the leader of the government, the opposition parties coming together and accepting to go through Parliament a bill based on our 3 demands, that they will tell the truth about the emergency we are facing, life on Earth is dying, that they will aim for the most extreme carbon reduction target possible, 0 carbon by 2025, and then to enable it to happen, to give legitimacy to those asked, we have a citizens' assembly, we upgrade our democracy. We've seen it failing with Brexit. We upgrade our democracy so that those plans can pass, and we have a citizens' assembly to do it. Because if we don't do that, we don't have a future. It's that simple. It's so grave. billions of people are going to die. I can't believe I'm saying this. You know, look, I look around me at all this electricity. I came in an electric car. I went through London, and yet we are facing a catastrophe, and we need to act.
I mean, it's interesting when you're talking there about one of the things being this very, very ambitious target to bring down those emissions. I mean, we're going to need some pretty radical policies, aren't we, if we're going to get there? And it's going to be personal sacrifices as well, isn't it? I mean, is it acceptable? I was trying to talk a little bit to Sian Berry about some of these things. You know, do we need to think about whether we're eating meat? Do we need to think about a complete ban on cars? Do we need to think about fast fashion? What are the radical things that you think we need to change now?
Well, I think it's an understanding of, like, what we personally take. In terms of the meat ban and stuff like that, we need to eat locally. If we can't eat meat, then we have to eat locally. We have to eat within our means. And it's understanding that we are continuously taking more resources than we can. So there needs to be more of an education about what we need to take. And then this is what a kind of thing like a Citizens' Assembly can look at in terms of what legislation needs to be put down, because it's so obvious that our government can absolutely not do this. They've had 30 years to do this, and there's still nothing. So this is why we need a Citizens' Assembly to come up with these legislations and this sort of stuff.
I mean, is there anything that you have wrestled with personally? I mean, I know that we could all do more in our lives, couldn't we? But, you know, have you got like, you know, a primer addiction, or like, is it hard to kind of give up that flight to, you know, America or to Europe? What are the difficult things?
It is very hard to step out of the society that you're living within. It's very hard to separate yourself from your friends and your family who may well be catching flights, who are, you know, eating roast dinners every Sunday. You know, if you separate yourself, you then become different and extreme, and why would people listen to you when, you know, you're some kind of new age Puritan? And so that's a huge struggle. When you educate yourself about the climate, you do tend to separate yourself from your friends and your family.
So do you stop, for example?
I don't
Absolutely
fly.
not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You know, but it's not based on what you have to do as an individual. We are going to have to change, but we need to change our system. We can't do it through individual choice. And you asked what kind of extreme action is needed. We do have a historical precedence on this. We mobilised for war in 1939. We made huge changes across our society. But we did it, and we brought people together.
And is that what you think we need then? That kind of blitz?
Absolutely, 100%.
It's as serious as that?
Yeah.
It is as serious as that. You know, I'm just turned 20. I've had to defer from university. I work with young people because I'm from XR Youth. And, you know, I'm in rooms with these 14-year-olds, you know, who are in tears because of this. They are in a world, right, they're in a city, and they're constantly surrounded by the fact of those people who will not even understand the role they are playing in the fact that these kids' futures are being ripped away. You know, they are being told that they're going to die, and people are saying, no, it's fine. You know, do your recycling. You know, it'll be fine. It's just absolute... It's really bad.
I just want to end, because I put out on Twitter that I was going to be talking to you, and I got, I have to say, a pretty overwhelming response to questions that I should ask. I think there were more than 400 replies. I just want to show you a bit of a flavour of what some of those questions were. If they believe the world will end in 12 years, how come they have pensions?
Actually, I don't.
Do they?
don't.
There you go. On to that one. Do they conduct any sort of equality impact assessment as to who is adversely affected by their demos? Last time seemed like working class people most affected, while middle class protesters skateboarded with the police. And then just finally, how does stopping people getting to work or hospital appointments help the environment? Are you worried that by this disruptive action, you might be harming the cause by turning people against you?
So we spent, in the environmental movement, we have spent 30 years behaving ourselves and using the systems there to request our government to change, and nothing has happened. In fact, what has happened is that our CO2 emissions have increased, and they're getting faster and faster. Right, no human has ever lived in the planet we now live in at 415 parts per million. That was 3 million years ago. We were not alive then. We're walking out into an unknown future. And what has worked is the environment is now the third most important issue of public concern, and that is because we took to the streets and we demonstrated and we caused mass disruption. Nothing else has worked. So, yes, I understand people are going to be adversely impacted, and some people are going to be impacted more than others. But the change that is coming, what is going to happen is there is no escape for anybody. The famine, the grief, the war is going to impact on all of us.
OK.
And something else to take in consideration with this is, you know, some things may not have reached our country yet, but what is happening in other countries, in the global south, in the majority world, is absolutely horrific. And that we cannot stand here as one of the worst countries, you know, in terms of producing this consumerism which affects these other countries and not do anything. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the fact, you know, people have to understand what it is to be a global citizen and that we all have a responsibility, you know, individually and within our communities to understand the place we hold within the entire planet and the responsibility we have to act on that.
OK, thank you both very much.
I just want to say, Savannah's, I know, but you know, it is an emergency and we get 10 minutes, but Savannah's so right about that. Nobody is in the Bahamas anymore, but it has been devastated because of our climate breakdown. And, you know, that's what we should be looking at. It's here and now.
OK, thank you both very much for being on the show this morning. Thank you.